Okay, I'd like to call the Mentor City Council regular meeting for June 17th, 2025 to order. Tonight I will give the invocation. Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent. All right, Julie, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Mrs. Dowling?
Here.
Mr. Freeman?
Here.
Mr. Kirschner?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Marne?
Okay. Approval of minutes. Council, you are in receipt of the June 3rd, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Staying.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Okay. Public hearings. Tonight we have one. Ordinance number 25-0-053.
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended and the official zoning map by the rezoning of approximately 12.7 acres at 8245 Deepwood Boulevard, that being permanent parcel number 16A005000040 from R4 Single Family Residential to R10 Multifamily Residential pursuant to development plan and conditions providing for the submission of this ordinance to the electorate and declaring an emergency.
Okay, thank you. This being a public hearing, it is now called to order and is being held pursuant to notice duly published and posted according to law. So also this being a public hearing, we're going to have a chance to hear from the applicant. We'll have a chance to hear from anybody wishing to speak in favor and anybody wishing to speak in opposition. So first, let me go to Ken.
Yep,
If you have something that you'd like
Yeah,
to.
thank you, Mr. President. I'll turn this over to our planning director, Ken Tanzarita, to offer a few comments.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, as indicated, the applicant is requesting to rezone approximately 12.7 acres located at the end of Deepwood Boulevard from R4 Single Family Residential to R10 Multifamily for a multifamily development. The property is surrounded by R4 Single Family to the east, an RVG Village Green Development to the west, R10 Multifamily to the northwest, and State Route 90 to the south. The formal rezoning application was reviewed by the Planning Commission at a public hearing on May 22nd of this year. The proposed layout includes 33 townhouse-style buildings. Each building will consist of a mix of 2 to 4 units attached. Each unit footprint is approximately 1,200 square feet in area, meeting the minimum size requirements set forth in the district regulations. The units will include an attached 2-car garage, basement and kitchen, dining area, great room, and powder room on the first floor. The second floor will include bedrooms and a full bathroom. The applicant has indicated that the units will be fee simple lots. The layout indicates that the proposed setbacks will include a front building setback of 25 feet from the edge of pavement and 20 feet between the buildings. The plan further identifies a 20-foot perimeter setback from the neighboring single-family home to the north, the Lake County Board of Development Disabilities property to the east, the Deepwood Condo Development to the northwest, and the Brookview Reserve Development to the west. The lot boundaries of each unit and the usable area shall be clarified as part of the final development plan submission. The proposed streets will be private. A stormwater management area is also proposed at the north end of the development, which creates a buffer between the existing dwelling at 8235 Deepwood Boulevard and the proposed multifamily units. There is a 50-foot landscape buffer area proposed along Interstate 90 with the existing trees to remain. There is also 1.39 acres or 10% of recreation park area located behind the first row of townhouse units on the west side of the site. The applicant has stated that the equipment for the park amenities will be commercial grade and in conformance with the multifamily district regulations. There are a total of 80 parking spaces proposed for the development. There is an emergency access drive proposed at the southwest corner of the property between lots 61 and 62 and adjacent to Deepwood's pool building. Emergency access has been discussed with the fire department and Deepwood condominium representatives. The proposed easement agreement for emergency access and the open space maintenance requirements and relevant association bylaws will be required for review and approval by the city. Just as a note, the City of Mentor's housing study and needs analysis, which was completed in 2024, examined the city's housing stock and the demand for alternative housing types. The existing multifamily homes within the city are affordable, but housing stock is often dated and availability is in short supply. The city has not seen multifamily and light-density housing, such as townhomes, duplexes, or condos, proposed within the last 10 years. The majority of multifamily housing stock in the city is around 40 years old or older. As noted in the study, alternative and dense housing types, such as multifamily townhouse units, can reinforce and strengthen existing retail districts and support Mentor's labor force by providing a housing option that will meet the needs and lifestyle of existing seniors, empty nesters, and younger early career households. At the May 22nd meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the rezoning and preliminary site plan for the 12.7 acres from R4 single family to R10 multifamily by a vote of 5-0. If you have any further questions, I'm happy to assist.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Is the applicant here? I think I saw you before. If you'd like to come up and give us your name, address.
My name is David Novak. My address is 9114 Tyler Boulevard, Mentor, Ohio. Kathy basically said everything I was going to say, but Deepwood Place is located at the south end of Deepwood Boulevard. It's approximately 12.7 acres and is currently zoned R4, which is 2 units per acre. We're asking for the property to be rezoned to R10, which allows for 10 units per acre, or we could have 127 units on the property. Our development is we're proposing 110 units on fee simple lots. Each unit has a 2-car garage. The driveway for each condominium unit can accommodate 2 cars. There are additional 80 parking spaces scattered throughout the development. We are proposing a recreation area of 1.39 acres. Again, as Kathy mentioned, the City of Mentor conducted a housing and needs analysis in 2004, and based on that, that study kind of confirms that the City of Mentor needs a project like this. Kathy also touched on about the access easement. We are working on that. We're close to turning it over to the board president from Deepwood Condominiums, but we're very, very close on that, I believe. And reading through the ordinance, that 25-0-053, Section 3, Item 4, it notes that the city wants to be party to that or beneficiary. I'm not quite sure what exactly all that means, but to that easement, and I guess so that they have some say-so that the easement is never removed or changed without the city's approval. So,
Right. Thank you, Mr. Novak.
you're welcome.
Okay, is there anybody here who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Yep, if you'd like to please come up to the podium and give us your name, address.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Wallace, 8228 Deepwood Boulevard, Unit 3, Mentor. I'm the current president of the condominium association there at Deepwood. So You need an undecided on your form when you're asking people to speak for or against, because we're still in the stages, as Mr. Novak indicated, where we're gathering information, we're reviewing documents. The board itself has spent quite a bit of time doing some due diligence, both through Barrington Development, Dawson, our own personal legal team, the Planning Commission. And we did hold a public meeting for our owners so that they could voice their opinions and concerns. At the May 22nd meeting, we brought those concerns to the Planning Commission, and they had Mr. Novak and Mr. Dawson address those on an individual basis. We are currently, as Mr. Novak stated, in discussions about what that easement would look like and what requirements the Deepwood Association would want to make sure is included in that easement as far as perpetual care and some of those items. We expect to have some draft information from them in the next couple of days, and the board will be reviewing that in their June 23rd meeting. I did receive some materials today from Dawson Builders that have been helpful. I'm just hearing today that the city wants to be a part of that easement agreement. Is that, I don't quite understand why that is. So if I could just ask that question.
Joe, if you would like to.
Yes,
Chime
Mr.
in.
President, members of council. The reason for that is sometimes developments, in order for it to function properly, for police and fire, need a secondary point of ingress and egress.
Correct.
Our public safety services have recognized that need in this particular case. And I, for one, I'm just a lawyer. I don't question how they save lives, but we know that they do it, and they do it extremely well, and we're all beneficiaries of that. So it's a critical aspect that's been identified on the part of the administration to have this emergency egress. But if the city isn't a party to it, where we can make sure that it stays open at all times, then that very purpose of it, could be, either periodically or even permanently, frustrated. It could be as simple as, when I look at it, it looks like a great location for plow operators to pile up snow in the winter. It could be as simple as the city saying, hey, you can't do that. You're blocking that emergency point. It could be persons parking cars there because it just turns into an additional parking lot. Or in an extreme case, either the condominiums or this HOA says, you know what, someone's violating the terms of this easement. We're going to block it off. And the city there has to be a spectator as to, whether or not they go to court and resolve it. We would want to be proactive in that case and say, look, whoever's right or wrong, we need it to stay open for public safety. So that's the only reason for the city to be a party to the easement agreement, to make sure it never gets extinguished. And if both sides aren't doing what they're supposed to, then the city has the legal authority to say, look, keep it open.
So is that prompted by some type of inspections on occasion, or is that prompted by a complaint from one of the other parties, or?
Could be either.
Okay.
You never know, but either side may say, hey, something's happening over there. People are parking cars, and we know if there's an emergency and the fire department has to use this to get access to fight a fire or respond to some type of a emergency medical situation, they may be concerned about that and call it in. We may have city personnel just on routine patrol. They may spot it. So however it comes to the city's attention, it's certainly nothing that would, we could ignore in good faith.
Okay. I just heard that for the first time this evening, so I just wanted to get some background on that.
Pretty routine for easements of this nature, and if that wasn't conveyed earlier, I certainly apologize on behalf
No,
of the
that's
city.
okay. There's an existent easement already on the property that was granted in 1970 to the Osborne family when the farm was still there, and it was transferred to the Polte. And I don't believe the city is a party to that one, so,
I think we may have. I
You
think
may
we
be,
did.
okay, I'll reread it again.
Yeah.
Are there any questions we can answer for the council at this point? Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Okay, is there anybody else who wants to speak in favor? Is there anybody here who would like to speak against this ordinance? Okay, hearing none. Anything else from the applicant that you'd like to come up and address? If there's anything more that you wanted to add?
I don't really have anything else to add, just
Okay.
if you have
Mr.
any questions
President?
for me.
Do you want me to ask my questions now, or? what
Actually, how about if,
ordinance?
when we get into the actual new legislation ordinance, we'll bring you back
Okay.
up because there'll probably be questions then, so. All right, so anything else, Ken, Joe?
No, sir.
All right. Council is in receipt of any or all correspondence received pertaining to this matter. So at this time, I am going to close the public hearing on this issue, and we will move on to new legislation, which is the same thing again. Ordinance number 25-0-053.
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended, and the official zoning map by the rezoning of approximately 12.7 acres at 8245 Deepwood Boulevard, that being permanent parcel number 16A0050000040, from R4 Single Family Residential to R10 Multifamily Residential pursuant to development plan and conditions, providing for the submission of this ordinance to the electorate and declaring an emergency.
Okay, so one thing I'd like to point out right from the start on this is that when council does vote on this ordinance, what we're voting on is to send it on to the electorate. It'll go on the ballot. So that being said, council.
Got a couple of questions, Mr. President. Probably more for the engineer here. Couple things. Number one, on the plans, where are the sidewalks? I don't see any sidewalks on the plans.
As shown on the plan today, we do not have sidewalks.
But we require sidewalks.
Okay, we could, possibly put a sidewalk down one side, like we've done like Marshview Landing was done, we put a sidewalk down one
Well,
side of the
Marshview was
street.
an example of why we were asking the question. Because the
understand.
sidewalks were not put in. That's
understand.
why it came up today, is the fact that they're not shown on there, and we want to know what you're going to do about sidewalks. So I appreciate if you provide that to the engineering department or planning department. And the other thing is, the sanitary department says it's suited for 105 units, and you're saying 110.
We can get that letter clarified. The original plan that we had submitted to the Planning Commission had 105 units, but when we reconfigured the layout, we took out some of the dead-end streets that we had, and we added the emergency access along the west end of the development. We were able to squeeze in a couple more units.
Yeah, that's, and nothing against you, I'm not real happy, to be honest with you, our planning commission for all this information, for them passing something to send it up to us with all these details, which includes the easement agreement. We don't have that. We don't know about the sidewalks. We don't know about the difference of 105 units versus 110. So all these things, and I want to, and I ask a question now, is who is going to build these units? Who is the builder of these units?
We don't know that yet.
Okay. Again, that's why I have a problem with why it came to us without any of this information being available. So you don't know who the builder's going to be, you don't know about the sidewalks, and you don't know about the easement agreement, correct?
Well, I know some things about all those.
You don't want to tell us?
No, I do not know who the builder is going to be. As far as the sidewalks go, we can surely go back and look at it. Part of my concern about adding sidewalks is that the setback that we have from the edge of pavement to the front of the building is 25 feet. So if we put similar to what was done over at Marshview, I believe the sidewalk was right up against the back of the curb. In some areas, I'm not sure if it was that way through the entire development. But if we put a sidewalk down both sides of the street, then there would only be 20 feet from the back side of the sidewalk, assuming we put in a 5-foot sidewalk, to the front of the garage. And I would have a concern that somebody with a bigger truck or something like that, it would hang over into the sidewalk, which wouldn't be.
So maybe it shouldn't be developed as R10 then?
No, I think it definitely should be developed.
But you
as
don't have
R2.
enough space.
Well, again, if we put a sidewalk down one side of the street, we can accommodate the sidewalks, and if we slide the
So that
road
means the
over.
guys on that side can't use the big truck the truck?
No.
But they can on the other side, or?
No, because we have 25 feet on both sides, so if we slid the road over 2.5 feet and then put a sidewalk down one side,
Okay.
then you would still have 22.5 feet on each side for the driveway.
Okay. So, my bottom line is, we just don't have enough information to know what's gonna be there, how it's gonna be developed. We don't know who's gonna build it, we don't know about the easement, we don't know whether 105 or 110 with the sanitary. So, that's where you left us with right now, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. President? Mr. President, could you have the administration explain the traffic study for us? That's a lot of houses coming down Deepwood Boulevard to a light on a busy 84. I'd like to know what the impact's going to be.
Mr. Swigger?
Yeah, we did require a traffic study. I don't have it in front of me. But the study concluded that there weren't any improvements necessary to the roadway network. Typically, the concern would be a left turn into the site. And then in this case, potentially a left turn out of the site. But in this case, the left turn was already constructed on 84. And the study didn't indicate that there was a left turn needed exiting the site.
And then, question for you, Dave, is this is a significant windfall for the developer. And why would we want to put all these homes in there, these additional homes, when we can put in R4 builds? And probably made a mistake showing me the models, even though this is only a rezoning question. Every one of them is basically the same. Every other one is the same. Every one of them's got the same garage style, same color, same roofing material. And for me, that's a non-starter. Because we're looking, if you're going to do something like that, and you're going to make a significant windfall doing it, you ought to do something really, something that can be proud of. Not the same. These look like Ryan Homes to me. But I don't know who your builder is, but if this is what you're peddling, thank you.
Council? Anyone else?
Mr. President, I guess I'll ask the law director. This ordinance is to put it on the ballot. This isn't a planning review, right? This is ordinances
That's,
for the ballot.
But the rezoning would be pursuant to the approved development plan, which is really a preliminary at this stage, as well as additional conditions. So this would be the approved development plan for the project. And so some of these action items, such as the easement, that being concrete as opposed to aspirational at this point. Again, if sidewalks are material to this, how could they be accomplished if this was approved, consistent with this preliminary plan, if at all? And obviously, other issues and concerns have been raised as well relative to architecture and some of these other items. But obviously, rezoning pursuant to an approved development plan has been the standard in the city for decades, I believe now.
Mr. President?
Jan?
Question for Joe. Our July 1st meeting would be the deadline for this to go on the ballot?
No, I don't think so. Don't make me do math. That's not why I have to.
I'm sorry.
All right, so per the charter, we have 60 days in advance of the November election, and the Board of Elections does honor that 60-day charter requirement. It's tight for them, though, because they have to go to print, and there's the overseas ballots and things of that nature. So while they would love it closer to 90 days, they do honor the charter's 60-day requirement, so you do have time.
We do have time if we do not pass this until our second meeting in August. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm asking.
Yes. Okay, just clarification.
And Mr. Novak, do you think you could have, that it's even reasonable that you could have some of the answers for us by the July 1st meeting, or do you anticipate August?
I would believe we could have it by July the 1st. The things that I'm reading is, again, the letter from the county utilities department, the sidewalk issue, the easement issue, Mr. Kirschner's comments. That's going to be a little bit more difficult. I mean, I could stand here and tell you, you know, we can vary color but again, that was just a conceptual plan, but that's the plan that's in front of you to look at. So I understand that.
Goes back to our old planning commission days, huh?
I understand. But again, I mean, if we offer different plans with, you know, brick or stone or whatever to help break up some of that monotony. Also, you know, we can change some of the roof lines and stuff that's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, to accomplish by the July 1st meeting, but we can surely try.
Well, you can look at, excuse me, Mr. President, take a look at Echo Hill and what Pulte was able to do above and beyond the design guidelines. Thank you.
Council, anybody else? So I don't think we're ready to move forward with the vote on this tonight. So do I hear a motion?
I'd move for first reading, Mr. President.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 25-0-053 has received its first reading. We'll hear it again in 2 weeks, July 1st. Next is ordinance number 25-0-054.
Ordinance to authorize advances of funds and revisions to appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mrs. Lingenfelder, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak, members of council. The ordinance that you have in front of you includes the cash advance from the general fund to the Lake Shore Boulevard Resurfacing Fund for the engineering services, and also to the federal grant fund. Those advances will be returned as the revenue is received. It also includes appropriation revisions for the general fund for engineering, for additional funds for bulkhead replacement, the bulkhead replacement project, and an increase in the federal grant fund, and also for the cultural fund, Parks and Recreation, for some community arts commission money.
Move to
Counsel.
suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes. Move to approve. Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-0-054 has been approved. Next is ordinance number 25-0-055.
An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a mentor economic development grant with GG Day Inc., DBA Go Glow.
Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malachek, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. GoGlow is a custom tanning franchise located at 8900 Mentor Avenue and is owned and operated by Anna Day, who is a local entrepreneur and mentor business owner of 2 other businesses here in the city. GoGlow has submitted an application for a Mentor Economic Development Grant to assist with the costs associated with signage and building upgrades. Their capital investment is approximately $184,000. GoGlow opened its doors in April of 2025, anticipates a payroll of $150,000 for this year and $200,000 for both 2026 and 2027. The anticipated employee count is 15 employees in 2025 and 20 employees by the end of 2027. And based on the guidelines of the Economic Development Grant Program, Economic Development Department recommends an ED grant to GoGlow in the amount of $3,000.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes. Move to approve. Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 25-0-055 has been approved. Next is ordinance number 25-0-056.
An ordinance approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Cleveland Freightliner, Inc., DBA Valley Freightliners Sterling and Western Star Trucks of Cleveland for the purchase of 2 Western Star 47X dump truck cabs and chassis under the State of Ohio Department of Transportation Purchasing Program and declaring an emergency.
All right, Ken, tell us about these dump trucks, will
Oh,
you?
thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Vernon, tell us everything you know about T dump trucks here.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak, members of council. As part of the ongoing fleet management and replacement program, I'm requesting the purchase of 2 single-axe dump trucks, cab and chassis using the Ohio Department of Transportation. This type of single-axle dump truck is the mainstay of our snow plowing and maintenance activities. The price under the state program is $276,636 and will be purchased from Valley Freightliner. We have a good experience purchasing through Valley Freightliner, and I recommend approval.
Lauren, do these replace trucks that are currently in service right now? And
They will, yes.
What will be the status of those trucks will they be on standby or?
We always keep a handful on standby, so one of them will likely be standby, the other one will be sold.
Okay. All right, so we'll see these out next winter pushing snow.
You will.
Yes, very good.
Let's hope not.
Yeah.
Well, good point.
All right, council?
Move to suspend.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-0-056 has been approved. Next up is ordinance number 25-0-057.
An ordinance approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Southeastern Equipment Company, Inc. for the purchase of a new case model 621G wheel loader and declaring the city's 2009 case loader no longer needed for any public use and authorizing its trade-in credit.
All right, Ken, tell us about this wheel loader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I'll turn that over to Mr. Vernon as well. This is a budgeted item in our 2025 municipal budget.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, our budget contains funding to purchase a new front-end loader from Southeastern Equipment using the Ohio Department of Transportation Purchasing Program. This piece of equipment is vital for our overall operations. Most importantly, it's used to load salt to our dump trucks in the winter seasons. The purchase includes a trade-in. The trade-in value was $35,000, and the balance of the new loader will cost $174,155. We have a good experience working with Southeastern Equipment, and I recommend approval.
Move to suspend.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 25-0-057 has been approved. Next is resolution number 25-R-111.
A resolution adopting the Lake County 911 Program Final Plan for the City of Mentor and declaring an emergency.
Ken, you know all about this.
Yeah,
one.
thank you, Mr. President. So, as you see in your staff report that was attached to this, this is the amended version of the county's required 911 operations plan. The update has been required by all 88 counties in Ohio, essentially to assess our capabilities and prepare for next generation 911 implementation, which is required for us within the next 5 years. Essentially, the plan before you, and I was a participant on the planning committee per the requirement of the Ohio Revised Code. Essentially, the plan pretty much checks most of the boxes that are required of any operational plan. As it relates to our city, we are frankly already ready to operate under Next Generation 911 requirements. Our equipment is generally needs very little updating in order to accommodate that. So at this time, I would recommend approval of this. And again, if you have any questions, happy to answer those. Just as a reminder, I think to the public, when we talk about Next Generation 911, what we're really talking about is the transition onto a statewide system, networking, wireless system, essentially, that is completely dedicated to just public safety services. It's referred to as the EZNet, and that will be completely supported by the state of Ohio. Local PSAPs, of which we are one, are partially funded, although that funding is pretty small, by some of the fees that are paid for cell phone users. Currently, if you own a cell phone, you're paying something under $1 a month to help support this program. There's only about $600,000 in total that comes into Lake County for that, so it's kind of a small bit to really support the requirements. But Next Generation 911 will mean that all calls coming in from cellular service will come directly to the respective PSAPs within each community. So right now, all those calls go directly to the county central dispatch. Then they forward those to the respective dispatch centers around Lake County. So there will be a geofencing placed around each community that decides to move forward with its own PSAP unit going forward. They will be receiving cell phone calls directly. They will also be able to receive and be able to manage text messages as well as video components that are sent into the dispatch center. So it's a big commitment for a lot of requirements, both in terms of technology, personnel, training, as well as data recording and data retention. We are very comfortable with being able to meet those requirements, and this plan essentially tries to establish standards throughout the county. And I think one of the prevailing goals of the committee was that any person traveling through Lake County can expect to get the same level of service when an emergency occurs wherever they are. So that's about it in a nutshell.
Okay. Sounds like a significant upgrade.
It will be.
Move to
Thank you.
suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Resolution number 25-R-111 has been approved. Second readings, we have none. Third readings, we also have none. And on to manager's report. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President. And Council, the city's agreement for participation in the Council of Governments we know as the Regional Income Tax Agency, or RITA, requires that the city's chief executive appoint a representative and an alternate to the council with the approval of city council. So I am therefore asking for the appointment of Mrs. Bonnie Lingefelter as our city's representative and Mr. Robert Fowler as the alternate to represent our city. And I would ask for a voice approval on that.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Ah, okay.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Congratulations. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Council. Council, in coordination with the families, the Safety Department has set Tuesday, June 24th at 3 p.m. as the date and time for a memorial service to be held at the city's Police and Fire Memorial, which is adjacent to Fire Station Number 5, to place the names of 2 former employees upon the memorial who have perished from service-related conditions. We will be honoring former Fire Lieutenant James Pirro and former Special Police Officer Gerald Lynch on that day. And it is worth noting that the date was preferred because it's the anniversary of the passing in the line of duty of Police Officer Mike Mazzani. And the public is welcome and encouraged to attend, as well as obviously our council members if you can be there. The Mentor Fire Department is currently taking applications for full-time firefighter paramedic testing. Those interested must register for the written exam no later than 4:30 p.m. on Friday, June 27th. And if you visit the city's website at www.workformentor.com, the application packet and detailed information can be found there. Council roadway widening work is expected to begin this week near the Mentor Library on Sharon Lee Drive. That will be a minor widening of about 5 feet on the east side of the roadway that will take place to create a southbound left turn lane on Sharon Lee at Mentor Avenue, and that work should take about 2 weeks. Currently, you'll see Traffic Detectors and Signs Incorporated, which is a subcontractor for Roniak Paving, installing radar vehicle detection equipment along Lakeshore Boulevard. They started that work yesterday, and that radar vehicle detection will be installed at each of the intersections from Campbell to Andrews Road prior to the start of milling operations, which are scheduled to begin next week. And again, that's a complete repaving and repair of that roadway. So this will enable vehicle detection to remain functional throughout that milling period and during the paving operations. And I hate to put you on the spot, Mr. Swigger, but what's the end date on that construction?
September 30th.
Okay, so it's going to be torn up for a bit. We're hoping to a lot of that work that will involve lane closures will be done in the evening hours. So we're looking to do our best to not disrupt traffic to disrupt traffic as little as possible. We're really happy to be pleased this evening by national recording artist Gavin DeGraw, who will be performing tonight at approximately 7:20 for our Mentor Rocks event. So it's still not too late if you're listening out there to come on out and join us. And then finally, Council, we have 3 new businesses to announce this evening. Hartville Golf Carts at 7777 Mentor Avenue. Kinetic Technologies LLC at 7520 Clover Avenue, and the DM Factory at 8767 East Avenue. So we thank them for their investment in the city, and we wish them great success going forward. That's all.
Thank you, Ken. Just as you said that about the Gavin DeGraw concert, the sun started to come out. Very powerful of you.
National recording artist Gavin DeGraw.
Right. All righty, moving on. Clerk's correspondence, Julie.
Council is in receipt of the Mentor Municipal Court month-end report, excuse me, May of 2025, and that is all.
Okay, commission committee reports. Council, you were in receipt of the Tree Commission meeting minutes from April 9th, 2025. The Municipal Planning Commission meeting minutes from May 1st, 2025. And the Board of Building Zoning Appeals meeting minutes from May 13th, 2025. So moving on to old business, we still have the car wash issue there on Mentor Avenue. Ken, do we have anything new on that?
We don't have anything new to bring up, but I would ask Mr. Swigger to give council a little bit of update of the information that we have requested from the applicant and are still waiting to receive. Mr. Swigger?
Thank you, Mr. Flipiak. We did have a chance to review the study in depth. Since we've concluded that review, we have asked the applicant to provide a few changes to that study. We've asked them to include the Heisley Road, Mentor Avenue intersection in the study, which has been a point of everybody's concern. We've asked them to include a queue analysis, peak hour queue analysis for vehicles entering their site. We've also asked them to extend their study out to 20 years beyond the construction year. So we have the right to do that based on our code.
Probably also worth noting, Mr. President, that we haven't received the easements that were easement information that was requested. I believe the law director has had some communication, but we have not seen any of that yet.
Mr. President? At our work session, we discussed this at length, and we looked over the recommendations that the administration had made, and we moved it along to the Planning Commission for their review. And I, for one, I would like to see them act on that as soon as possible, because I'd like to get that results back, because there's a pending state bill that may have effect on this, and perhaps you you could speak to that, Ken, how that might affect the car wash.
I'm not 100% sure on what legislation
Well,
you're referring to.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Again.
Short-term rentals, I
yeah,
think you're
yeah,
talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry,
yeah.
the short-term rental issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the Ohio State Legislature is a very busy group right now.
I got car washes.
Addressing short-term rentals and more probably of concern to us is issues related to property taxation here in Ohio. But with respect to the short-term rental, there is a bill that's making its way through committee right now that is an adaptation of some of the other legislation that's been proposed on short-term rentals. In this particular case, it would again look to disallow the prohibition at the local level of short-term rentals, but grandfather in existing legislation on the issue, or any local restrictions or modifications on how those short-term rentals are regulated or pursued. So we're keeping an eye on that. We'll keep council updated on that, because I think you probably do want to consider what you want. If in fact that looks like it may have some legs, you may want to consider what, if anything, beyond what you currently have in place, that you may want to put into effect, if in fact it looks like there's some chance that would become adopted, so that council has a chance to decide what your grandfather regulations look like.
Okay.
But again, there's so much, there's so much going on right now in Columbus, including them trying to get a budget passed. I'm not sure that we're going to see a whole lot of action on that in the short term, but we'll keep council updated.
So Ken, just,
President?
oh,
Question for Mr. Zeman. Can you provide a little guidance on, so right now we have a prohibition. So if the state passes something, then we're stuck, we have a prohibition. If council passed some modification or something, if the state then passes it, is that what is grandfathered, or would we possibly be subject to whatever the state decides if they pass a sweeping allowance? So I'm not quite sure what would be grandfathered.
Correct, and that's I'm sorry, Mr. President, thank you. And that's the big variable that frankly causes me a lot of consternation. The whole idea that the state is going to wrest control from local municipalities and then provide some, we'll call it grandfathering in for existing regulations doesn't necessarily mean that, one, they'll do it at all, or secondarily, it will be anything and everything that the Ohio municipalities have in terms of existing code will be honored moving forward. So perhaps, and again, this is also hypothetical, they'll say, well, where it's currently prohibited, it may remain prohibited. But if those communities decide to change, they shall change in accord with state law, whatever that might look like. On the other hand, perhaps they'll say that, where it is currently permitted, those ordinances, shall be preempted by state law, so that those local controls, whatever they might look like, are no longer enforceable. This is really, frankly, a very, very uncharted territory from the General Assembly. We certainly have a lot of interesting questions relative to the Home Rule Amendment and conflicts with that, but it's just a situation that causes tremendous consternation. So we just don't know.
Mr. President?
yes,
Mr. Zeman, so why don't you have something in place? Because something's better than nothing, because if you have nothing, then you have nothing. But if you have something, at least they have to overrule it and deny your grandfather. So put something in place, right?
Yes, sir. Currently, there's a
Kind of like going up to bat and not taking a swing at the ball
well,
and hoping to get walked.
currently there's a complete prohibition, so the other team's not allowed to bat.
so it makes sense then to wait
But
and
then we don't
see
make
what
any money.
makes
We win the
sense.
game.
But it makes sense then to wait until the state acts.
Oh, my God.
And then if we want to change our code in favor of what they act with, we are free to do that. But if we keep what we have now, then we have the prohibition, and if we don't like what the state comes out with, then we have our prohibition still, correct? We're grandfathered on our
Again,
prohibition.
my legal recommendation is err on the side of caution, because you don't know what you might get if you tinker with the current status quo, and see what happens. That's my legal counsel.
All right.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I don't agree, but I agree with Scott in that we should have something. I mean, we're talking about, the last thing we sent down, I thought there was consensus in what the administration put out and that we sent to the planning commission. Then there was some other ordinances brought into the play at the planning commission, and then suggestion to let it wait until the state acts. I think, Sean, that if we wait for the state, that's what we live with. We can't make any changes at that point. There's a prohibition on short-term rentals if that's what the state comes up with, and we have to live with it. If we prove something, you're talking 20,000 homes, when you're talking about 8 Airbnbs per ward. We've got any number of people that maybe their house caught fire, or maybe there's a tournament, maybe they're coming in for a funeral for 5 days. There's 1,000 different ways to make these work. And again, we haven't had one complaint that I know of that's documented about Airbnbs. One of the commission members, I think, brought up at their meeting that preference should be given to people who live in Mentor and own the homes. So there was one good suggestion that came out of it, although I think they might have been a little confused about the other items that were brought into play, and then the recommendation to wait. I just don't see a reason to wait, because we send it down to them to review, not to sit on it. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Mr. President? Yeah, I agree with Mr. Marne and Mr. Kirschner. Yeah, if we wait on the state, we're going to have language we might not even want. But I'd like to ask, I guess, the law director and the president, what do we need to do as a council to get the law director to start working on something? Do we need 2 council members, 4 council members? Because from what I understand, a lot of these people on this council want Airbnbs. I don't know what the count is, I don't know where, but I don't think we want them to go away. So what do we need to do to get you to start writing some ordinances about Airbnbs? And so we could get something up here before the state approves their prohibition on this. Do you need 2 council members, 4 council members? What do you need?
Joe?
Yes, I need 2 council members, but we've already drafted things,
Yeah.
but so
Okay.
that's the easy part.
Okay.
What hasn't been decided, though, is, and the planning commission hasn't made any recommendation, is, so I can't really get into too much legal analysis here. I think that's not appropriate. But for instance, there's part of the discussion the other night was limiting the number of permits. That does raise legal issues. Part of the discussion was perhaps preference to existing Mentor residents. That raises legal issues. So all of those things may be good ideas, but they may raise legal issues and concerns, which I have to provide legal counsel. That's going to be confidential. I sort of need to know exactly, though, where things are necessarily going before we can analyze the legalities of some of those ideas.
Okay.
And so there's just lots of, I'll just say very generally, the last time this came up, before the council voted to prohibit them, there were so many, in my one-on-one discussions with members of council, there were very, very different ideas. And part of the reason to have the public discussions, of course, is to share ideas in an appropriate setting, consistent with the Open Meetings Act, see where there's some consensus, and then sort of see where that may solidify. But just to throw something out there without going through that process is extraordinarily difficult.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Yeah, along the same line. Well, first of all, Mr. Kirchner, you said 8. The last I heard was 6 per
6.
ward. But it's a lot more involved, I think, than as far as legislation, especially on the inspection part. I mean, we've got a lot of local communities just recently actually banned, short-term rentals, number one. Number two, there was just a case where a couple was just brought up on secondary manslaughter because they advertised Airbnb having a working fire alarm, and it didn't, and people died. It's not so simple to just say we're going to allow it. And if we were to allow it, I'm going to right up front say, that I know a lot of them are in my ward, number one, but number two, I'm not for grandfathering anybody, because as far as I'm concerned, you're gonna reward them for violating the current law or ordinances because they're acting with when they're not supposed to. So I think it's more involved than just let's get something on the books and get something done. I think you got to be more, like the smoke alarms, other security measures to make sure that these people are taken care of. Now, they advertised, that couple that was brought up on manslaughter, they did advertise it had all this. So I don't know how we follow up on that. They can say whatever they want. I mean, we've all, I think, got emails from Airbnb or VRBO of, hey, we're willing to work with you guys and tell us how it works in other communities. My attitude on that is kind of like, where were you before? You knew this was going on in our community and you didn't notify the city. Now that the city is considering what they want to do as far as that, now you're involved. I have a problem with that also, but that's my feelings on that topic.
So I think what I would probably recommend to this council then is at our July 1st meeting, we become prepared for a work session, and each one of us has before them what you want to see in an ordinance for short-term rentals.
Mr. President, I would just say that sort of redundant doing that all over again when we just had a work session where the administration came up with, I thought we all at least felt comfortable enough to send it to the planning commission for them to review. So it's sort of having another work session doesn't make sense.
Are there 4 members of this council who agree on every single parameter?
That's why we sent it to the planning commission.
Mr. President, let's wait for the response from the planning commission.
Okay, that's fine.
Mr. President?
That's fine.
Not to be redundant, but my question to Joe earlier, and my concerns are, and still remain, I'm open to listen, but my problem is, if it's not a prohibition, what the state would do, if we would be opening ourselves up, and that's what I'm uncomfortable doing. I remember, which John can probably appreciate, I remember the ACA with Obamacare, and all we heard leading up to it, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. And as a business owner, I believed that until the deadline came, and then I was told because I had increased the copay by $5 during the period leading up to it, my plan was, and I was scattering at the end. So that's why I have a little bit of problem. I was told, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan, and we all thought we were good. So I know that was on federal level, but this is state. So it's the control, I have concerns about it.
Mr. President, one last thing. Perhaps we could come up with what our definition is of short-term rentals. I think that came up in the work session, like we were talking how long, 2 weeks, 1 week? Because I think, John, in your case, when you say short-term rentals, I think a lot of the rentals down in that neck of the woods are long-term rentals, actually.
Well, they wouldn't apply. We allow long-term rentals.
Right, but I mean, then that's why we should probably come up with what our definition would be of short-term rentals. I mean, definition, so someone could come in and say.
I thought we did do that, and Joe would have to answer. I thought it was anything less than 30 days is considered short-term.
So we would have a definition, I think that would work, so we can make that, codify that at some point if that comes back to us, so, thank you.
Joe, do you have anything you'd like to add on that?
Yes, the terminology for this industry is pretty well settled now, and our existing code does have, I think, adequate definitions for short-term rentals, hosting platforms, and all of the rest. To Ms. Dowling's point, again, the big variable is if it is material in the council's judgment to limit the number of permits, I just want to underscore, I don't know what they'll do at the state level to honor that. If the state says, in communities which permit short-term rentals, you are prohibited from limiting the number of permits, then that's that. Again, it's a big variable, so, and I'm not saying that should or should not be material to the council, but if it is, I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future, or how the legal issues that may create may flesh out. So that's the downside risk, and that's why I just wanted to underscore that. Thank you.
Council, anything else on that subject? If not, let's circle back to the car wash. I think we had just about wrapped that up anyhow. There's nothing for us to act on tonight in regards to the car wash issue, so maybe by July 1st, we could have a deeper dive on the trip generation study, have a look at the easements, and then bring that up for a vote. Is there any other old business, council? New business?
Mr. President, real quick.
Go ahead, Scott.
I was under old.
Go
I
ahead.
apologize. So when new information is provided to Planning Commission and administration, right, because it's still going to go back to Planning Commission? That's my first question.
Yes.
Okay. And also the administration, and then it'll come to council. So this conditional use permit's going to change, but what we have in front of us is whether or not we will allow this use, correct?
You didn't buy one?
Correct? Yes, no? Yes. Okay.
Conditional use permit.
So now that it's changed, do we have to change anything? So should this be in an ordinance when we have the final say-so from the administration, from planning, and what the changes are, good, bad, or indifferent?
Go.
Yes, the decision to issue a conditional use permit or not is administrative in nature, so no ordinance is necessary.
Even though changes are being made administratively?
I don't know what those changes are. The Planning Commission is just looking at the site plan. Other changes are reviewing the trip generation, and again, we're still waiting to see copies of the easements that would support the traffic management for the site.
Well, I guess my question is, how are you more administrative than that when you're basically changing administratively the plan? From a legal standpoint, shouldn't it be better from a city standpoint so that it's more concrete, that it's in ordinance form?
No, there's no right or wrong to that. It is administrative act to issue a conditional use permit or not.
Ken, would you like to?
Yeah, if I
comment?
could, and I don't know, Mr. Warren, maybe we misspoke or in some manner, but the information that we're trying to gather is just to help inform council to better make its decision. We won't be changing the nature of the permit itself. Council may decide to do that,
Yes.
however you act on it.
Right,
But
exactly. It could-
the manner in which you do that would be.
Chances are it's just going to be 4, then we're going to make changes. So that's, if it's a nay, then you're not making any changes because it's a nay. So shouldn't it be ordinance form because you're going to be making changes administratively?
Well, again, we won't make any administrative changes. Anything that comes anything that results from information we provide to the council would be changes that may affect how council views that permit and conditions related and attached to that permit, which council would make. At this point, we're not changing anything administratively. We're just providing information to the council
But council will.
in the event that you
council
may
could be
change it.
changing,
And
is
if
what
you
I'm
do,
saying.
that would be through your normal exercise of.
And that helps us to make an
legislative.
assessment of the CUP status.
Correct.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay, any other old business? New business?
President, I'd like to congratulate my alma mater, Lake Catholic,
Ah,
for winning a baseball state championship for the first time in this county in 50 years. Wycliffe was the last one, 1974, to win that baseball state championship. I never knew it was so elusive until I heard that. That's incredible. But yeah, I'd like to congratulate Lake Catholic on a baseball state championship.
what a season.
Going to need another notch on the.
I was just gonna say, you're making it very difficult for
Gotta
us
make
to
that
keep
sign longer.
pace
Gotta make that
with
sign
the
longer.
entry signs, but
You can always
yes,
make
they'll
that-
have to be
that sign
altered.
taller. Or more stuff then. Okay, any other new business? All right, hearing none. Persons before council? Elaine Foster, if you'd like to come up and give us your name, and you realize you have 4 minutes.
Yeah, this will be very quick, because I know everybody wants to get out of here by now. My name is Elaine Foster, and I have just a couple of things I want to comment on. One of them is, as you all know me, how dismayed I am to watch around the Civic Center. I know what's going on, I know what's being built, I know what's going to be put in. But all of the annihilation of the trees there, just watching them go down is really disheartening for people like myself. As I see destruction of Mentor left and right, Heisley Road, it's just being built up so much. And tonight's whole conversation was about building and squeezing in, and I won't even talk about that stuff. So that was one thing. And the other thing is, and not talking, I didn't know you were going to be talking about housing tonight, so I'm not going to touch it, other than I came here to talk about, I wish that instead of these big high-rise squeeze-in things, that you would start thinking about the up-and-coming generations and the late 20s and the 30-year-olds who are looking for houses that maybe instead of these monstrosities are being built that people like myself can't even afford. That how do you expect people that are coming out of college or getting their first jobs to be able to afford a home in Mentor? Maybe some ranch-style developments, something smaller. Just commenting about that, because I know a lot of people that are moving out of Mentor because they can't afford Mentor anymore. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.